admitted at the university hospital, where he breathed his last breath. We as a commission fondly remember Father, and we often call him Father, as a very kind and humble gentleman. He was very articulate and brilliant. We remember Father as someone who never asked about work, a hard worker, and the only question he would ask about work is, when do I start? As a commission, we remember Father as an ardent fighter of human rights. In the 4 months he has been with us, he spearheaded and championed the visiting of prisons. He spearheaded the visiting of Honorable Sewanyana and Honorable Sewanyana and Sejirinya. And he was very empathetic when he met them. He spearheaded the visiting of Kakwenza. When the world was trying to look for this gentleman, he decided to find or look and search for Kakwenza wherever he is or wherever he was, and finally found him. Father believed in truthfulness. He believed in fairness and justice. Father was very humble, but most importantly, he loved his God. He loved the church, and he was never shy to put God first in whatever he did. Father loved his country. When we were going to Geneva, he told us and reminded each one of us that we may have different views about things in our country, but when we're out there, our country comes first. We should not tear ourselves and split up in an international forum. We should speak one language. Uganda is for us, and we don't have any other country. We were proud to have been associated with such a brilliant and honest and God-loving man. Ladies and gentlemen, we traveled with a team from different ministries, agencies, who consulted my doctors, and I'm okay. On Tuesday, we decided to travel on 25th. And when we were traveling, he was in a jovial mood. We took SN Brussels. When we got to Brussels, he was a very happy man, in good health. Priscilla and I were traveling very closely with him because he was a father. He was a Catholic priest. We held him in high esteem. So we also came in to support whenever we could, and he was okay. We got to Geneva, it was -2, and he was fine. He had the adequate clothing, and we knew that he was well prepared. Now, on the 26th, the minister who headed the delegation was Honorable Jeje Odong. He invited the team, all Ugandans, the Ugandan delegation, to meet at the embassy where Ms. Namono heads. She's the accounting officer. And said, we're going. So I asked him, Father, are you okay? He said, I just have a bit of bleeding, but I'll be fine. Priscilla asked him, and he said he will be fine. So when we got out, we asked the embassy to carry him, to take him to his hotel room. So on the day of review, that is 27th, we had to run to the Human Rights Council. I stayed behind because we needed to look out for Father. And because I could not go to his room, I requested a gentleman back there who works with Ministry of Education to go and help me check on Father, because he had told me the night before that he had a nasal bleeding. So when he came back and couldn't find Father, I was concerned. But anyway, Father had just been moving around the hotel. So when I saw him, I was concerned. I said, Father, are you okay? He said, I'm okay. I have a bit of a challenge in breathing, but I'm okay. And then he told me that I also bled at night. So I said, can we go to hospital? He said, no. I insisted, Father, let's go to hospital. You do not have to be there physically. There are many other people who represent Uganda. But Father, the way he is, he refused. And I just wrote here what he said. He said, it's okay. Let's go. It is the moment of Uganda's presentation of the report. And that's actually what brought me here. I can't miss it. He ignored me. He said, I will not stay in the room and follow virtually. I have to be in that room during the presentation of the report. Indeed, we entered the car and went for the review. During the whole, we had someone breathing heavily. So during the review, I walked to where he was and asked him, Father, are you feeling well? And he did not want to show any sign of weakness. So he said, I shall go after the session. And he sat upright and he continued. I remember seeing Mary walking up to him again. I don't know what she saw. But then afterwards, he asked us, take as many pictures. I want this moment to be remembered after we had done the session. And I wonder what was happening. Then I told him, Father, now let us go to hospital. So we walked very slowly because now he was having difficulty in walking. We took the escalators, that is after the session. He sat through to the end, and that is when he started telling us, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. I held him on one side, Priscilla held him on the other side, we sat him down. We pulled off the mask, Priscilla started praying for him, and I held him on the other shoulder, and we prayed. But then I called on the ambassador and said, Ambassador, Father is not well, get us a vehicle. And that is when the embassy was kind enough and brought a vehicle very fast. Father was put in and whisked off to hospital. Mary will give the details. But as a commission, we feel like we lost a good person. We lost someone who was committed to the good cause of human rights. And to us, a big tree has fallen. A big tree that has left a big hole. And that big hole also has left cracks that are in a form of hurt and pain. We know that Father has been taking care of so many children and so many people. You'd see them coming to the commission. And we're saying, who is going to fill that space of that big tree? A tree where many have been drawing its fruits. A tree whose leaves have been the shelter and whose branches have been the shelter of many. For us, it is a big tree that has been cut, that has fallen, and we don't know those who have been feeding and quenching of this tree and its bark, what is going to happen to them. For us in Baganda, we say Chitalo Nnyo, Chitalo Ddala. We feel that we have lost someone. May his soul rest in eternal peace. I convey again the greetings from the chairperson and the members of the commission. And Father arrived, like she said, in Geneva 25th. He was received by myself inclusive, taken to his hotel. He seemed well, dined with us that same day, 25th, 26th, like she explained, we're in the office discussing all day. 27th, and I pray that, because Father Lokodo is a church figure, is a political figure, he's a civil servant, it's very important that we pay attention to what is shared on the social media that may somewhat shift from actually what could have happened and just take away such a peaceful memory that I believe I witnessed with the team that came to Geneva. Father Lokodo seemed well, like Ruth said, but in the room, we call it room 20 in the UN Human Rights, he was breathing heavily. I'm not a doctor, so I'll avoid using medical language. He was breathing heavily, so when she said I walked to him, I heard him breathe heavily. I was sitting in front. And being the foot soldier, the coordinator in the mission with the delegation team, I walked to him and I requested, Father, I beg you that we step out, and I call the UN doctor for first aid. The father that he is, like I've described, said, no, we are finishing this session before I get medical attention. And when we finished, like she said, Father was whisked to the hospital. It's one of the best hospitals in Geneva, Switzerland. It's called the University Hospital in Geneva. In French, they call it the Hoog. Father was taken by a colleague of mine, who is a male, because it was proper that probably a male in case of handling comes in. When he reached hospital, he was struggling to breathe. So the doctors immediately subjected him to the COVID test, a rapid test that came out positive. And once it came out positive, we were separated physically from Father. We were not allowed any more physical contact with the late Father. And I can say we were reduced to telephone communication with the team in hospital. So I will not lie that I was physically there. No one from the mission was physically there, not because we didn't want, but the medical rules of the country that we are hosted in required that. So on 27th, he was admitted, and in the night, they called us and said, the doctors told us,
oh, your patient has stabilized on the breathing, so we are moving him from the ICU to the intermediate ward. That's a ward between ICU and the normal ward. And we were happy. We informed the delegation. Ruth and Priscilla could not let me walk. Every time they would ask, how is father, how is father? Everybody was concerned. So we had hope and faith that, oh, he's better, he's out of ICU. So the whole 28th, remember once he tested positive, we advised the delegation, whoever had booked their ticket up to the end of the session, to change their ticket and fly back, because we knew that Swiss are going to trace contact and just hold them in the country for quarantine. That is extremely expensive, yet if they can test negative, go back home and carry on with the work, and the mission can do the final adoption of the report, which most of them did. On 28th, they were all busy taking their COVID tests in preparation for the trip on 29th. So on 28th, father was in hospital, and we believed is an intermediate ward. Around 5 p.m., we were called again by the hospital, and they started asking now for the next of kin and his identification. But remember, we are not in physical contact. So we were trusting the system. When we asked what is it, they said, no, he's being attended to, but we want this documentation. And we asked the Human Rights Commission that relayed the documents that we as a mission relayed to the hospital. On 29th, no, that 28th night, the most we had was, you can't talk to him, he's being attended to. And on 29th in the morning, we woke up, most of them had flown out. The Brussels airline and KLM is very early. And we woke up to the worst news, that your patient has not made it. I request that I'm not detailed into the cause. We were able to put a video call between the family and the doctors that worked on father, and they zoomed and they physically heard it from the mouth of the doctor explaining to them what killed their loved ones. So I'm not competent to repeat that, and I think they said it. May father rest in eternal peace, and those that were depending on him, may the Lord provide for you. May you find peace and strength that you have got the last remains of your loved ones, and lay him to rest. Thank you very much.
Government, through the different anti-corruption laws and legislations he took charge in making and developing. Personally, on a personal note, I worked with the Directorate for Ethics and Integrity as Principal Legal Officer, and later on as Acting Director Legal Services. And we did quite a lot with Honorable Father Simon Lokodo. Like many have said, he was so passionate about the fight against corruption. He abhorred moral values and principles. He said these negative moral values and principles which are affecting our young people should be completely done away with. One very interesting story about Father Simon Lokodo was when the homosexuals had a meeting in Entebbe. He decided to go and close the meeting and told them, please go away, you cannot have this meeting, this is against the laws of Uganda. And they took him to court. And there is a namesake of mine called Patricia Mutesi, who handled that case very, very well, and the government won the case. But before that, the first day of the hearing, Father Simon Lokodo told me, but doctor, these people must not be allowed even to step in the premises of court. I feel like deploying some kanyamas to cane the homosexuals and cane these gays and lesbians. And we really laughed, and I told him, Honorable Father, that would only work in Karamoja. And he looked at me and said, sure, these people need to be beaten thoroughly. I told him, no, leave it to God. And indeed, God took charge, and government won that case. Another very interesting thing about Father Simon Lokodo, he was very, very comical, but would often joke, and I would say, well, Father, the Karamojong don't know how to dance. We, the Acholis, dance better because we have our Larakaraka. And so he said, well, I will show you one day. So we had this end of year party at the Directorate for Ethics and Integrity, and music was played. I said, now, Father, today you have to demonstrate to us that the Karamojong actually know how to dance. So Father gets up and takes to the floor. You know the traditional dance of the Karamojong of jumping? Father started jumping. I said, you actually do not know how to dance as Karamojong. And people laughed, and Father was so excited in a jovial mood. When Father was appointed the Uganda Human Rights Commission, I had just been appointed as Deputy IGG. And I saw the members who had been appointed, and I was like, hey, Father, being a senior former minister, my car is relatively new, and the commission is having challenges with the procurement of vehicles. So I requested the incoming chair that please let this car be given to Father. I've taken very good care of it. It's relatively new. And indeed, Father Simon Lokodo was so happy. He called me and thanked me and said, Patricia, this is very, very good. You're so kind to me. But all in all, Father Simon Lokodo has impacted in many lives positively. He has inspired very many people. He was a man of his word, and he was always truthful and down to earth. May the Lord rest his soul in peace. May we keep the values. May we maintain and uphold those values and principles that Father Lokodo Simon stood for. May his soul rest in peace for God and my country.
Thank you. Thank you.